Hello, everyone, and welcome to another special edition of The Review, a miniseries you can only find here on Happs, the network of now. My name is Marco Torres, and I'll be hosting today's review session. There's been so much going on in the country, especially in the last week since the inauguration of now President Joe Biden and now Vice President Kamala Harris. Just in the last few days, Joe Biden has signed over 17 executive orders, and specifically looking and just in the first day that he went into office on the inauguration day, we're going to be going over some breaking news that's happened throughout the day of some of the orders that he has signed and some of the bigger news that's been happening. We'll also be looking at California COVID and what the new Governor Gavin Newsom has announced for the state regarding the current downward trend in COVID cases. And then lastly, we're going to be looking at having a deep dive on what happened on January 6th, the infamous day of the siege on the Capitol. And today, I want to thank you all for attending and being a part of the review. So, as I said before, we'll be looking at right now President Biden, who has signed many different executive orders that have been going on in the country. Specifically, coming on your screen now is one of the big ones, and that's Biden overturns Trump's transgender military ban. This is a huge step forward for the Democratic Party, especially as Biden is pushing forward in his platform and really turning around what former President Trump did when he was in office. Looking a little bit more at the BBC News article here, we have, President Biden has repealed this ban. Specifically, there were about 9,000 active duty transgender troops in 2019, according to the Department of Defense data by Palm Center. It's a nonprofit group. And, one of the biggest things about this is that Biden has said is transgender service members will no longer be subject to the possibility of discharge on separation of the basis of gender identity. Furthermore, Biden states that gender identity should not be a bar to military service and that America's greatest strength is found in its diversity. Now, looking back, kind of looking at some of the comments, California COVID, right? A pandemic doesn't stay within the state lines. No, you're exactly right. But I think at the same time, though, it's great to see that, there is a decrease, you could see, in the amount of COVID cases. And we'll actually be getting to that in just a minute as we go on to here. And then I see Peter, part of the Happs team in the audience. Hey, Peter, it's great to see you here. Thanks for it's great to be back after the break of getting back into school, teaching, and getting things started off and back here on the review. One of the other big things, and this is actually one that I've been waiting for almost half a decade now, and this is the second thing that Biden did today, and that is put effort into put Tubman on the $20 bill. So with this, Harriet Tubman was originally the efforts to put her on the $20 bill started in the Obama administration. However, this didn't really go through due to the Trump administration really slowing things down after the 2016 election. There were really critical comments by the candidate Trump, who branded this move by the Obama administration as a pure political correctness. And it was just a scheme by the Obama administration, via the Trump side. So I think this is a really big move moving forward. I have colleagues, I have friends, I have many people who are a part of, the Black and, just people of color community, like myself as being a Hispanic, who are thrilled to see that, a person of color, especially a Black person, will be the first Black person on American money. This is what I could say, and I think what many people would say is groundbreaking and historical nonetheless. And again, thank you all for tuning in. It's great to see you guys here. If you have any questions about anything, whether it's about any of the bills, any of the executive orders, please feel free to put them in the chat, and I'll see them live, and we can talk about them as we move on. The next big thing that actually Biden has done, and this is one that I think many of you have noticed today, specifically. Coming on your screen now is Biden signs the Buy American executive order. Specifically wondering, why is this important? This is important because it goes back to Biden's campaign trail. He's already coming true to what he promised within the first year of his campaign, and pretty much it's his focus is to buy in America. You know, put the money here, put the money in our local communities, but then at the same time to keep people within America, buy within America, not leave the country. He plans to do a very aggressive approach to this, which is something that President Trump did in his own way, but it was something that didn't work as well as what could have done. And this is what the Biden administration has criticized the Trump administration for countless of times. And so seeing this move forward, the announcements that Biden has made during the process, the proceedings, he said that he really has criticized the Trump administration for their lack of pretty much of putting an aggressive push onto what could have been something big and something positive for America. And I see a few people in the chat, and I just want to give a quick shout out to these people. They're always great Happs supporters, and we have a top commenter, Bernie Doley here. Bernie, thanks for being here. It's always great to see you, and thanks for joining in on the review. And you had a really interesting comment. Australia has had Black peoples on their notes for years, and I think that's one. It's an impressive thing that Australia has done it, and I think it's so interesting to see how America is finally stepping up and is finally getting to that point where now we will hopefully soon get there as well. From my understanding, the Mint is now in the process of processing and redesigning the new $20 bills, removing Andrew Jackson from the $20 bills and putting Harriet Tubman on them. So in the new bills coming out, the new notes, you should be seeing Harriet Tubman, which I think might be really interesting, especially how those will get circulated, whether or not, like how with the $2 bill that kind of got pushed out, and now it's more of a collector's item, if anything, than a note people use. I think that might be what the Andrew Jackson bill might end up becoming, more of a collector's item. But again, $20 is $20. So we'll see what people do with that. And hey, Pablo, it's great to see you in the chat as well. Great. Thanks for being here, a part of this. And Cameron Sadehi. Cameron, you've always been a great, we've always done so many things together and so much broadcast. It's always great to see you. And, we're going to actually be going into COVID now. And Cameron, if you're still there, or other people who are a part of California, I'd love to hear what your thoughts are regarding Governor Gavin Newsom's recent announcement of lifting the stay-at-home order as of today. Which is pretty much just shown a downward trend cycle in the COVID numbers. It's really interesting why we're stopping now. We were under a stay-at-home order since the middle of December, which we thought was only going to last a week. Then the ICU units completely got overcrowded, shut down. In LA, it became pretty much the epicenter of COVID-19 across the entire country. It's still uncertain whether or not LA County will reverse and start opening up. As of right now, I believe they're taking it very slow, but I know here in the Berkeley area where I'm located, it has immediately already opened up, and that people are now allowed to be in social bubbles again. People are there's now outdoor eating again, and this was immediately as soon as the announcement was made. Looking back, I see in the chat we have a Twitter person, Green Eye 720, says, "Can you explain the oil issue that he stopped? I don't really understand the whole thing. Like, why?" Well, a lot of it had to deal specifically. That's the pipeline issue. So it affected a lot of different states, and I can talk on the behalf of New Mexico, at least. That's where I come from, in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and specifically, it was a little bit of One, it's bad for the environment. Drilling for oil, it causes a lot of different water and air pollution, and it's slowly kind of breaking down. What we have within our. There's only so many natural resources before you run out, and in the sense that that is only just going to continue to push towards the destruction or a quicker destruction of using fossil fuels and just kind of having like a I'm not going to say an apocalypse, but pretty much it's only hurting the environment and hurting us and the world. So that's one big thing. Another big thing specifically is Biden has already announced that the he's pushing towards transitioning all of the military and all of the government vehicles into electric vehicles. This is a huge move moving forward, as this is what, for example, California is on a 20-year plan by, I believe, or 30-year plan, excuse me, by 2040. Governor Gavin Newsom has said that with this plan, it would be illegal to sell any fossil fuel car in California. Instead, it all have to be electric cars. So that's similar to what Biden is pushing forward now, and so trying to kind of get out of fossil fuels and go more towards electric cars also kind of works more with now going back into the Paris Accord, which was also another executive order Biden signed on the day of his inauguration. So there's just so many different things that this affected. A positive that happened in New Mexico, well, I would say a negative actually, deals. The amount of work that can be done is now limited because there's a halt on all trade deals and negotiations regarding the selling of that oil. New Mexico, for example, was making about 50% in um, royalty fees from the oil that was being sold in contracts and for national, and they were making this. This is where a lot of their money was coming from. So this is actually hurting the New Mexico budget, and this was a little bad timing for them, as they were just in the last, I would say, decade, they have really hit into the fossil fuel industry. So, but as the country's trying to transition out, this was kind of a negative blow. But I hope that answered your question a bit, Green Eye 720 from Twitter. Another thing is, I see Cameron also posted here. It's possible that Newsom lifted the stay-at-home order because he may be afraid of being recalled. A recall movement is slowly growing. And Cameron, I completely understand that point, and I think, I think that's completely valid. And thank you for your insight for all of that. And the biggest thing is, looking at the vaccination and looking at how well things are going. And as of right now, we're not really sure with the vaccination, mostly due to the fact that under the Trump administration, we didn't even know how many even vaccinations we even had. So because of that, we were told a certain number, but then now that the Biden administration they're stomping the brakes and going, actually, no, we don't know what the numbers are. A process has been slowing down with getting the vaccinations out. So there's been a real big slowdown with a lot of this. So that's a big note. But actually, what I'm going to bring to your guys' screen now is actually the California numbers that have been going on right now. So let's see. So here's the California cases on your screen. And this is from the New York Times map. So what we can see, and I think we can make this a little bit bigger for you guys. Let's see if we can do that. There we go. Yeah. So these are the numbers. So out of all the reported cases since the beginning in March 2020, there's 3.2 million cases, right? And that's just from California. Then we look at the amount of deaths. That's 37,000 deaths, okay? On January 24th, so this is yesterday, so Sunday the 24th, there were 21,000 cases, about 21.7 thousand cases reported in California with 300 deaths. As we can see, within a 14-day change, the deaths are on a rise, but the amount of people that are being infected and catching the virus have been decreasing by an exponential of 40%, which is a huge decrease from how we saw the spike earlier from between December and January. Now, understand that spike was probably due here. I'm going to come back on screen for y'all. That spike was probably due to the holiday kaboom, the shuffle. What we saw with Thanksgiving, with Dr. Fauci going on saying that many people were breaking orders in the middle of a time that it was already on an upward trend, and with people going out to vote, with on the election day, with Thanksgiving, with people ignoring orders, it was just kept going higher and higher and higher. But this is such a positive and good looking trend to see these cases already going down like this. This is the decrease that we needed to see, as this was the scariest and largest spike, as this tripled compared to what we saw back in July and August, and we thought those weren't numbers were big. I think someone could make a joke here and say, unfortunately, I mean, not trying to be rude here, but I mean, looking at the stock market, for example, and then looking here, this almost looks similar like Tesla's stock, in the sense of how Tesla kaboomed just in early October to January from I think they were at 300 all the way went up to 800. It looks very similar, but it just shows how much the again kind of going back to the previous talk about electric cars and green energy, really big, and then also with Tesla. Just really getting on top and being one of the frontliners and all their new plans moving forward. But I think Cameron, it's like what you said. It's really great to see everything like this being on a downward trend, and that kind of really goes into what I was going to say in this next section, which has to deal with California Republic. We're on a all the stay-at-home orders are now off. But do understand though that this isn't just for everyone. It's not a statewide mandate. Every county still has authority, and they can instead increase the amount of what we say amount of pressure, amount of a legal, a freedom for the people within their county. So they're the ones who are ultimately in control as of right now, unless something spikes again, unless an unforeseen circumstance. Turning now to actually an important look. So on top of Pfizer, on top of Moderna, the two biggest COVID-19 vaccination producers in the country, we also just got word of another producer who is actually trying to be a part of the big production that recently just said that they have to now drop out. And that was Merck. So coming on your screen now, we have the graphic showing you that Merck today just announced that they're stopping to develop both of their COVID-19 vaccine candidates. They said that they have to shelve the idea, mostly because the candidates, the results of the clinical trials, they fell short of the actual goals that they were trying to hit. I think that was really noteworthy and praiseworthy for them to actually step down from this, as we all understand that, one, it is really important that we all get the vaccinations, but two, this is a huge money opportunity for these companies to also get in this. Hundreds of millions of dollar contracts are going out, and especially with the decrease in the amount of productivity from Pfizer and Moderna, there needs to be more done. So if another company jumped in, they could be making they could make a big contract. But with Merck saying they aren't able to, they're actually going to be doing something else. And I thought this was very interesting. So this is a statement from Merck. Coming on your screen here. So specifically, the statement says, here, let's there we go. Specifically, the statement says that they're shelving both of their vaccine candidates. However, the company says it will still keep working on two therapeutic drugs. Now, this is like a very important thing, including one that aims to protect the body's respiratory systems from the coronavirus ravaging effects. Last month, they signed a deal agreeing to supply over 100,000 doses of one of those drugs for about $356 million. So they're still in the game as of now, but it looks like but it'll be more of the after effects, that they'll be helping the people who already got COVID and how to deal with the effects of it. Going to the chat now, I see Cameron, you've been saying some really great stuff. So hopefully a greater decline in cases of COVID-19 will happen in California, since holiday season is no longer happening. Completely true. And I don't think that the only thing that I can see, schools getting back in session, but many of these schools are all already online. I think all of them are all online. And, there isn't real reason to be going out. The only thing, though, is I know that from the times that I've had to go to a store, really quick and come right back home or I've had to go report, as an essential worker in the field, there have been times I have seen groups of people clustered together. And I think that is something that's really unfortunate, was how people maybe weren't taking things as seriously as they should have during, the stay-at-home order, and not and leaving and going in with large groups of people. And I'm talking about people like 5, 10 people, groups of people together, not just one, two, or three, but I'm talking 5, 10. So that was something that I found that was a little saddening and disheartening to see. And this happened to be a little bit more on the younger side of folks, college and looked like high school people. But it looked like, most of the people, though, were following this. And people, I think, have the idea that they just want things to go back to normal, to get the vaccination and, return to life as soon as we can. The other comment that Cameron has: if Newsom's able to lead the effort in a continued decline in cases with the stay-at-home order lifted now, he will win re-election. I think Cameron, yeah, that's exactly, that's on point. I think if he's able to do a really good job, and is able to really push and help this decline and really get people in a positive thinking attitude by the time re-election comes up, I think that this will very much really strongly help his chances for winning re-election, especially with people will then associate him being with, per se, being the one to decrease, COVID. Not really the truth. He isn't the one who decreased COVID, but at the same time, though, usually people compare, like, was there a depression during that president's time or governor's time? Yes, then it must have been their fault. Well, in reality, there's so many factors that are going on outside of the, what just one person can control, but it's just what society deems as, well, you were the one in charge during that time, so you had to have some accountability, which can be true. But I do think, and I think many of us can agree, that with Governor Newsom's leadership during the COVID pandemic, throughout the entire year since March 2020, he's handled it very well. Many people, many other states, including New Mexico, for example, have followed in California's footsteps with closing things down prematurely in order to prevent COVID spreading. That's why the June to August times, when it was a big bubble for many locations, it wasn't as big for us here in California, here in New Mexico. But then again, it just was that holiday season that so many people were struggling with, to restrain themselves from not seeing their friends, family, election time, for people who went out and voted. There were so many causes and stuff like that, and it's just really unfortunate. And on top of just the virus, and with the new strains of the virus as well. And one thing I just wanted to say also is that with the Moderna vaccination, that's been researched right now, and it's been researched heavily to make sure that the different strains of the virus won't affect it. And this is the truth. So they've looked at it and they saw that it shouldn't be affected by the strains. They're actually producing a booster of the Moderna vaccination for those who live in Africa, for that strain that's out there. Is supposed to help the current vaccination and to prevent better security for people there, and help improve their immunity. And so, from my understanding, that means that it's a bit different and a booster is needed if you have the African strain. But at least for the one that's in the United Kingdom, that's now shifted here to the US, and that's the one that is more infectious, that can transmit to people easily and infect people more easily, compared to the one that originally started. That one, Moderna, it does not have an effect against Moderna's vaccination. And then I see the dog walker guy from Twitter. Hey, dog walker guy, how's it going? He says, greetings from Australia, Marco. Happy Australia Day. I didn't know it's Australia Day. It's great to hear. What do you do on Australia Day? That's something I'd love to find out and hear. And from anyone who's watching this internationally, I'd love to know, what's your take on American politics, and what's your take on what's going on in America, especially with Biden now leading America with a Democratic House, Democratic Senate, and now an executive leader who's a Democrat. I'd love to hear your take and what it's like for international folks tuning into American news and American politics, because I feel like the last 2 weeks, or 2-3 weeks, the world has just been glued to their screens when it comes to America. Now, while we get that info, and anyone who wants to chat and send something in, I'd like to thank everyone again for being here in this Haps broadcast. And I want to say hello to Antonio. Thanks for joining me. Antonio's a good friend, and who's always been a supporter. So thanks for joining me, Antonio. And I actually want to go on to our last topic. Now, this is a big topic. This is the topic that has to deal with what happened on the day of the insurrection on DC. Now, I know this has been already a while and people have already gone this out of their minds, but this is something that I think that still needs to be relevant in people's minds, as this is something just like with the energy that was pushed out with BLM and with just election day in general. This is something that people shouldn't forget, because as what many politicians, as what many political analysts have said, and as many journalists have said, the work is never done when the election is done. You still need to keep going forward. And that is something that, as journalists have reported time and time again, we always see a decrease in the amount of work. But I think with the amount of events that have been happening since the or not re-election, but the election and the confirmation and then the inauguration of Joe Biden, there people have been, how would you say, mad and upset with the reaction of those who have disagreed with the results of the election, and put a siege on the Capitol. So what we're going to do right now is, there was an amazing piece published by the Washington Post, and it was called 41 Minutes of Fear, a video timeline from inside the Capitol siege. Now, this was done, and in my class that I teach media and democracy at UC Berkeley. And we showed I got my students together and we watched this, and I talked to them about what does democracy mean, right? And I taught them, well, let's look a little bit more, and let's look closer at understanding, what does it mean to be a journalist? What does it mean to be a journalist in an insurrection? And what does it mean to produce content for the American people in order to understand really the true details of what's going on? Now, this a piece is a perfect example of what that is. I think it's still timely. This was produced about a week ago now, and this is something that I think many people should see. I do want to warn you that it does have some graphic violence, including some stunning images that you may have not seen prior, including the death of the young woman who was at the insurrection as well. So we'll be now watching that, and we're gonna be talking about it. We're gonna be pausing, and we're gonna be commenting along the way to kind of put out some pinpoints of some of the key things you should be looking at as we go through it. So it's coming on the screen now, and let's take a look. So here it is on the Washington Post site. So 41 Minutes of Fear, a video timeline from inside the Capitol siege. So here's the video, and now let's get this to play for everyone. Okay. And really quickly, if someone in the chat could let me know if you can hear the audio, just to make sure everyone's able to hear it, and we're just not sitting here in silence as we watch a, a video play. I'd love to know that. But let me know if you can hear the audio coming from the video capture right now as we watch the video. That'd be really helpful. And let's get back to it. Okay, so I'm getting some messages through. Were you guys able to hear the audio at all during this, or were you never able to hear the audio at all? And I'm gonna get this. I'm gonna try and get this figured out in just a second. But pretty much what this looks like is this is gonna be like I said, this is a video pretty much of what's happening at the siege. It breaks down really just what the journalists had to go through and what the timeline of events that occurred here. So I'm getting the audio set up right now. Let's see if we can get this working for everyone. Let's see. Okay, are you able to... I paused it now, but let's see. What about now? Are you guys able to hear it? Okay, so I think I figured it out. I'm assuming there's still no audio. Give me 1 second. I just got a tech person to jump on and help me for a second. We're going to click this, and we are going to... Let's see if this works. Here we are. Okay, so we're back. Let's see if it works now. Okay. Can you hear the audio? Let me know if you can hear the audio now. I'm not really sure what to do. We have Pablo in the chat, who's one of the Happs team specialists. Pablo, do you know how to get the audio to be playing on the video here? I'm screen capping, and I know I clicked on the audio play feature, so I'm not really sure how to fix this. Pablo just joined me in the back end side of things. What do you think, Pablo?
Can you stop your screen share for a second?
Yeah. So we're gonna stop the screen share.
Are you screen sharing like a tab when you selected which?
Yeah, I'm screen sharing a tab.
So when you do that, there's a little check mark in the bottom left-hand corner that says include audio.
Okay.
Make sure
I clicked that for sure. Let's try it again. Let's see if we can get that to work. So click that, share audio, share. All right, take 2. Let's see. All right, it's up here.
Clashed with outnumbered police.
Do we have it?
And in some,
yep.
To be
Awesome. Okay, thank you so much, Pablo. Always great to have you on the team. Yeah,
I hear it here, so let's make sure the audience heard that.
Okay. Audience, can you hear? I'm gonna bring it back, but can you hear this?
The Washington Post examined hundreds of videos, analyzed publicly available maps of the Capitol complex, gathered hours of police radio, interviewed dozens of witnesses, including members of Congress.
You know, when the plane's going down or the building's on fire.
Awesome.
Is this that
great?
call?
All right.
And
so
reviewed official communications to reconstruct how the pandemonium unfolded.
It'll make a lot more sense if we can
hundreds of Trump supporters.
Thanks, Pablo. Always great having you, and thanks for the help.
Anytime.
We're going to walk down Pennsylvania Avenue. I love Pennsylvania Avenue. And we're going to the Capitol. We're going to try and give them the kind of pride and boldness that they need to take back our country.
On January 6th, hundreds of Trump supporters stormed the Capitol complex. The insurrection was the worst breach of Capitol security since the War of 1812. The siege led to widespread vandalism. More than 50 police officers were injured and 5 people died. The Washington Post examined hundreds of videos, analyzed publicly available maps of the Capitol complex, gathered hours of police radio, interviewed dozens of witnesses, including members of Congress.
You know, when the plane's going down or the building's on fire. Is this that call?
and reviewed official communications to reconstruct how the pandemonium unfolded and retrace the peril that lawmakers faced. In the crucial first hour of the attack, the mob stormed through the Capitol, at times coming within feet of lawmakers or Vice President Pence. The Post used a facial recognition algorithm to analyze video from inside the Capitol and estimated that at least 300 rioters were inside the building while police struggled to evacuate lawmakers. Members of the mob violently clashed with outnumbered police and in some instances appeared to be looking for members of Congress. Lawmakers in both the House and Senate chambers are meeting to certify electoral votes for President-elect Joe Biden.
To assign different electors to a state.
Outside, a man uses a police shield to smash a window. He was seen earlier that day with members of the Proud Boys, a far-right group with a history of violence. A group from the crowd enters the Capitol, a floor below where the Senate is in session. A minute later, at 2:13, Pence is ushered off the Senate floor to a nearby office. Senate President Pro Tem Charles E. Grassley begins presiding, but almost immediately calls a recess.
And it will stand in recess until the call of the chair.
We'll pause.
Protesters are in the building.
Thank you.
Grassley is escorted out of the Senate chamber. At that moment, one floor below the Senate chamber, rioters enter and begin pursuing a lone Capitol police officer, Eugene Goodman, up a staircase to the second floor. They are nearing the chamber, which is filled with lawmakers.
Second floor!
The rioters at one point pass within 100 feet of where Pence is huddled with his family. Goodman leads the mob away from a nearby entrance to the chamber and toward a line of police.
So I'm going to pause this here for a quick second just to quickly talk about Eugene Goodman. I think a lot of people, including a lot of my students, were a little confused about why he was honored so greatly, and especially given, he was the one who then escorted now Vice President Kamala Harris in the inauguration, and just kind of like many people only just saw what you saw at first, the scene of him walking up the stairs, trying to get the rioters to back off, and which was very similar for many of the other police officers and other military people that were there. So people were, at least from my understanding, were somewhat confused as to why did he get such a glory and recommendation for what he did. But after understanding and seeing this new information here, or for some people it may not be new, they already may have known it, it's that he actually used himself as live bait to distract and attract the mob to follow him instead of going the other direction, as we can see in the map right there. And you can't see my cursor, but following that orange line, instead of taking a right when they came up the stairs, which would also lead them to the Senate chamber, they went to the left. And that was actually a direction that, was the best possible because the police line was there. It was blocking their path. And it's pretty much a big rectangle, as you can see. It's like a rectangle within a rectangle within a rectangle. And that's just kind of how the entire chamber is set up. If they would have went to the right, we don't know what could have happened. Obviously, we understand that there wasn't a police line over there, and that probably that was the area that they were starting to gather some of the members and evacuate them from. From my understanding, and from later what you'll see in the video, is they evacuated them from, there's a police line there, and then there's another police line at the farther end of the hallway, which is the second line of defense, and then right there is where the members started being evacuated. and went down less used staircases within the Capitol building to get out of the area. But also another thing to take note, and this is something I wanted to bring up, was showing a little bit of how the journalist point of view is this. So a lot of people forget who's recording the video, right? So I think one of the most important things is watching the video again, but realizing that this isn't just someone with a phone in their hands. This is actually a professional reporter there, because they're having to run backwards up the stairs, and the stairs are really big stairs. They're really thick staircases, and so. And they're very wide as well. So you have to take some big steps. So this person was jogging back, or maybe not jogging, but they were shuffling backwards up the stairs, trying to get this footage. And as you can see, this is the only reporter or videographer in the area to get this. And so again, just rewatching this, understanding of like what the journalist's job's to do, as you know, again, many journalists put their own, lives and, their own safety at risk when at the insurrection. Many of them were in the insurrection riot. Many of them were inside the building, but none of them went home because it was their duty and job to capture this for the American people so they could witness it. One of the things, though, which again, the Washington Post did an amazing job, was creating this video not only just off of professional journalists' work, but also public video that people posted online, that many of the own insurrectionists posted online. And this is how we're able to see this today. And this is how we're able to make this very comprehensive timeline following this 3D map of a blueprint layout of the Capitol building to really understand what happened, where the cameras are, and what was going on, and then also the interviews that were taken with the senators and the House reps. But continuing now, let's watch the rest of this.
They are nearing the chamber, which is filled with lawmakers.
You can see the journalists running backwards now, trying to, or maybe camera over the shoulder.
The rioters at one point passed within 100 feet of where Pence is huddled with his family. Goodman leads the mob away from a nearby entrance to the chamber and toward a line of police.
And there's the hallway back there where they could have got right and went to the Senate chamber.
What's the point of stopping this at this point? What's the point of stopping this at this point?
Around 2:15, the doors to the Senate chamber are locked.
A bunch of senators just ran out of the session. A bunch of senators just ran out of their sessions.
Oh, did they?
That's what they said. Whoa! Yes. Senators ran out of their session. Senators ran out of the session. Yes.
As the crowd grows, the mob fills the halls of the Capitol, and police struggle to gain control. The rioters splinter off into different factions throughout the building. The House is still in session. Senators wait in the chamber.
Well, I kept thinking how the day before I had driven my husband to the airport to come back to Minnesota, and he said, "Now be careful, I'm worried about you. There's all this talk about what could happen." And I said, "Don't worry. The United States Capitol has got to be one of the safest places in the country."
Senator Smith texted with her family about her safety. A group of rioters move toward the northeast side of the Capitol, where officers attempt to push them out of the building.
You gotta do it from outside. Sorry, you gotta do it from outside. Come on. Come on, guys.
Or completely erased from President Trump's total.
On the south side, the House continues proceedings, even as the Senate is locked down. Representative Paul Gosar has the floor, but members are restless.
Madam, Mr. Speaker, can I have order in the chamber?
The House will be in order. The House will be in order. Okay.
Police announce the attack on their radio channels.
The Capitol has been breached.
House Majority Leader Steny Hoyer is escorted out of the chamber, and the House goes into recess. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi has already been evacuated. At 2:19, Capitol Police issue an alert on a, quote, security threat inside the building. By 2:25, the size of the mob swells in the crypt, the room right under the Capitol rotunda, and violent rioters crush the police. At the same time, on the floor above, another lone Capitol Police officer fights to keep an entrance to the rotunda closed, but is overpowered by the mob. Rioters stream through the now open main doors on the east side of the building.
Occupy, do not destroy! Occupy, do not destroy! Do not break it!
They flood through the rotunda and into Statuary Hall, moving toward the House chamber, where as of 2:26, representatives have resumed session.
We could hear a lot of the noise from the rioters who were entering, and we were getting alerts on our phones about the Capitol being breached, and yet, everything was still continuing on the floor, and we couldn't understand it.
Rioters enter House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's suite. Members of Pelosi's staff hide under a table in the conference room.
Texting Mike that they're within our hallway. We need Capitol Police, I think, come into the hallway. They're pounding on doors trying to find her. Yeah.
One of the big things that I think is really important is that not only were the House representatives and the Senate members were in danger, but also all of the staffers. That's what we called them in DC. The people who were who were there, who were supporting all of the elected officials, the speech writers, the social media managers, the communication chairs, the assistant directors, even the secretaries. All of those people were also in danger and in harm's way. And like what we just saw, or House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's staffers had to hide underneath the large desk, and luckily were not spotted as people were barged into the area to try and find Nancy, the Speaker Pelosi. And so I think that's just one thing that also people need to remember, is that not only were the elected officials in danger, but also all the other people, which bolsters the numbers of people whose lives and security were jeopardized in this situation. One thing I also wanted to hit on too specifically was earlier we heard from the senator from Minnesota talk specifically about how she said, telling her husband that she felt like she'd be safe, that the Capitol is one of the safest places in the world. Now, just to give you an understanding for those who've never been to the Capitol, so just giving a quick background, I was a reporter in the Capitol for about 5-6 months. And there it took like 5-6, anywhere up to like 5 to 10 minutes just to get inside the building from the amount of screening that you had to do, and the lines that could take, and just the amount of guards that were there, and guards that were armed with what looked like to be like assault rifles, or just, probably filled with rubber bullets, but who knows? But the amount of security that was there, and that required you to always have a badge or a pass on you at all times, or you were immediately escorted out, as a potential security threat, was just really tremendous. We had to have many precautions. The clearance was so high. We had to constantly get it renewed. Well, not constantly, but it was renewed on a very consistent basis. And I think with this, though, it just shows it surprised so many people, including these representatives. They have to go, people have to go through so many, scanners and guards to get in on a regular basis. So how did these people get in like this? And I guess, again, comparing this to the BLM movement with the police force and police aggression that we saw there, compared to how, you would assume they would go 10 times harder than how they did in BLM. And that was with peaceful protesters, right? And with this is actually a violent mob. Then it's just the contrast is just so stark, and I think it's just really unfortunate to see that the call to be kind quote unquote or civil with them compared to the BLM protesters under the Trump administration is just really evident in what we're seeing, especially in this. We even saw an insurrectionist in this video earlier today go up to one of the captains after we saw Eugene to lead them to the police line, and the insurrectionist is saying, "Come on, just let us through," like, and giving him that look like, we're already this far. And that's one of the biggest things is we've already come this far, and the guard, this is the farthest you can go, and this is the farthest we'll allow you to go. But the idea and the temperament of that is identifying that, well, we allowed you to get so far, but it shows a lack of responsibility and a lack of, control from the said police that were there in the military, which is just very unfortunate, and that they had to get to this, and that it even got to this said point. But again, returning back to the video, we're now about to witness some really big information. Again, viewer discretion is advised for this next section.
Rioters gather near the House chamber entrance.
Well, we came this far. What do you say? Drag him out! Drag him out!
The House recesses again at 2:29. The Senate is evacuated at 2:30. Over the next several minutes, senators move out of the chamber to a nearby staircase. For security reasons, the Post is not showing the specific routes lawmakers travel from there, but they pass within yards of rioters, separated only by a handful of outnumbered police.
As we were being escorted out of the chamber and walking toward the staircase, I looked over, and the Senate parliamentarian, Elizabeth McDonough, was standing next to me, and she was carrying a bunch of things. She was including one or two of the boxes containing the electoral votes as they were cast.
We want Trump! We want Trump! We want Trump!
At 2:33, a request for assistance is announced over the police radio.
On radio, please be advised, U.S. Capitol just asked all military and sworn officers to come to the
Team 2, copy.
military.
And the last part was the first part of the transmission.
Military as well as all sworn protesters due to a breach to the Capitol. You copy?
Copy.
I'm going to pause this again really quickly. And again, apologies for pausing it so consistently. But to break that down, I wanted to go back to what the former House rep was talking about, and specifically Elizabeth McDonough, when she was carrying the electoral college or the electoral votes. That was really important. And it showed to me when I first saw this, that's when I got a shiver down my spine, and that's what a lot of people have felt and have reflected on this, because it shows the fragility of how close they actually got when seeing the video. And kind of backing this up, and I'll bring us back where we're at now, but just seeing where we were at, there's the votes right there, and from Senator Mike Lee, my apologies, but right there, when Senator Mike Lee was talking and saying that, and again, Republican from Utah, just right across the hallway, there was the first line of defense from the police, and then now there's the second line with the man in front of the cameraman here in the yellow jersey, that or vest, that it's showing just how close they actually got, and really that Elizabeth McDonough was just right there too. And Elizabeth McDonough, the parliamentarian, she's not that big of a person. So think of a smaller woman carrying 3 large boxes, or trying to, carry these things, and with, protecting your life for that. This was everything that both the Senate and the House were working for. This is what the entire day was about. And whether or not you agreed or disagreed with, voting and certifying these votes, everyone across the aisle agreed that that even though we disagree, we're still here to vote on it, and we're here to debate, and we're here to talk rationally about it. and that it's the American process, it's the democratic process to go through this, that they don't follow mob rule and mob authority. They don't follow what the mob says. And I think specifically looking at Chuck Schumer, the former Senate majority leader, looking at Senate Mike Pence, looking at former Vice President Mike Pence, looking at even Romney, one of the former presidential candidates, nominees, they all even stated that they would not buckle down to mindless thugs and bullies that were there to try and stop them from doing their work for the American people. And again, even if they didn't agree with their colleagues, they were not there. They would not cause an insurrection, but instead they would talk it out and debate as what civilized democratic union representatives do. So just a really important fact, and really something to dive in and just take that apart a little bit of how close this got with really, if you think about it, what was the goal of this insurrection? We heard earlier when they were storming in through that one guard that was in the riot gear trying to hold them back, saying, occupy, do not destroy. Well, that made a lot of sense, but there was a lot that was still destroyed along the way. So there was, it was a little, double-edged sword. I don't know. It seemed like an oxymoron to me because they had to break in, they had to destroy to break in to occupy. So that was one thing. But the other thing, though, specifically, though, is that again, their other reason is to just, arrest, quote unquote, what one of them said, arrest the vice president for, again, not siding with former President Trump on, getting, not voting for the electoral college certificates. And this was the answer. These boxes, they get a hold of this. That could have been really bad. That could have been their game. And so I think keeping these safe was really a big deal. And just seeing how they at one point got just from the other side of a hallway, just showed the fragility and the just how sensitive and how close things really got. It was just, a thin line. But then going back to where we were about right here, and we'll continue the video now.
The last part was the first part of the transmission.
Military as well as all sworn protesters due to a breach to the Capitol. You copy?
Copy.
Rioters flood the hallways and look for an entrance to the barricaded House chamber, while members of Congress remain on the floor and in the gallery one floor above.
We were just told that there has been tear gas in the rotunda, and we're being instructed to each of us get gas masks that are under our seats.
Over the next few minutes, security attempts to block the chamber doors as lawmakers and staff evacuate.
When we were evacuating, they were actually pounding on the House door. So we knew that they were there. They were pounding on the House door, and we were in the process of evacuating.
They kind of yelled at us, from below, since we were in the gallery, that there's been a breach and you might have to hide under our feet.
Plainclothes law enforcement officers on the House floor draw their firearms and aim towards the doors as rioters break windows and push against the barricade. Lawmakers and congressional staff on the House floor are evacuating via the Speaker's lobby at 241, just as rioters reach the lobby and come within approximately 60 feet of the lawmakers. Members of Congress file down narrow, rarely used staircases to a secure location. As the last lawmakers from the House floor leave at 2:42 p.m., the number of rioters grows around the House chamber.
We don't want to hurt them on the side. We just want to go.
Some representatives remain in the House gallery.
I called my wife. As soon as I heard her voice, I realized, oh man, am I having that call? When the plane's going down or the building's on fire. Is this that call?
I want you to go home.
Officers move aside as a tactical unit is arriving, but the mob starts smashing the windows with flagpoles and helmets. On the other side of the building, rioters have entered the Senate chamber. In the House chamber, members crouch in the upstairs gallery. They are unable to leave, locked in by the Capitol Police to prevent rioters from entering.
There's a gun! Hey, he's got a gun! He's got a gun!
Ashley Babbitt, a Trump supporter and Air Force veteran, tries to climb through the shattered door window. An officer fires a single shot. The shot was audible inside the House chamber, where members are soon concerned their lapel pins might identify them.
Yeah. The fuck?
Take your pins off.
Pins off.
Babbitt later died of her injuries. At 2:49, the members in the House gallery are being evacuated by Capitol Police.
We walked out of the chamber. There were five or six of the insurrectionists who were on the ground, spread eagle, with their hands above their heads, with Capitol Police around them.
The members make their way to safety, the last of the large groups of lawmakers to do so, descending down a staircase in this photograph at 2:53. Over the next several hours, police worked to secure the building, dispersing the crowd using stun grenades and other riot control tactics. The governors of Maryland and Virginia dispatched National Guard troops. At one point, Trump, in a video message, urged his followers to go home, telling them he loves them and calling them very special. The Senate gavelled back into session at 8:06 to confirm Joe Biden as president-elect.
Today was a dark day in the history of the United States Capitol.
And one thing I always say to my students and to anyone else is to always watch the credits. The credits really show who was behind all of this. And we can tell there was probably, it looks like, over 30, almost maybe even 40, could be even 50 people who were a part of this making of this 15-minute video. Amazing video, as we saw from the Washington Post, and something that I really would say is just an amazing piece. Specifically, want to point out we actually from the UC Berkeley group. Getting their name up right here. A producer from a former UC Berkeley graduate is Sarah Callahan, one of the video editors, one of the only two video editors on this piece, and just understanding how big of a job this piece is. That it's just an amazing thing that all these people were able to get this done out, hundreds of hours of working on something like this. But I think bringing things into perspective and really understanding what we just watched is just hundreds of hours of work and field work done, from reporting, listening to police radio scanners, of like I said, interviewing lawmakers, using the facial recognition tool to identify about how many to get the number of how many people were inside the Capitol at a certain time, as well as to go through probably thousands and upon thousands of footage that was actually taken at the insurrection, posted on social media, saved, and then edited, clipped, and then put into an actual story and timeline, figuring out the exact locations of everything, and putting it to where everything makes sense. I think, and just piecing everything together, this is just an amazing piece that just to repeat, this was not a piece that I made, but this was a piece that a former alum from the UC Berkeley Graduate School of Journalism, Sarah Callahan, did. And it's just an amazing video that I'm very happy as a journalist that colleagues in, Washington Post have created, and that other journalists, everyone should be proud of this amazing work. And I think it really shows just what journalists can do and how journalists are really important in this time. But also, one thing that I teach my students is the power of just recording a video or taking a photo. As we saw, many of the photos and videos here were taken by just regular people, or insurrectionists. But they're still regular people, and that also means that you also have the power. And the idea is that many people nowadays are also considered journalists in their own sense. When you take a video, when you record something, you record your best friend's speech at a wedding. That's, in a sense, being a reporter. You're getting raw information. You may not edit it and you may not compose it the way that a reporter does, but in a sense, you are doing the bare bones work of what a reporter does do. The reporter just goes maybe like 5 to 10 more steps further than that. But again, that essentially though, when you use your phone, it's you're in now a different kind of mode. You're in a different spotlight, and also understanding that when your video and your photos do go on a social media page, it becomes public. Knowledge, it becomes public, just public, and so that people can use it. Usually it's polite to request, but it can be used for reports, what we just saw here. So just a really good, some good information to know from a reporter to you guys, just so you have an idea on what's going on. And then I see Todd Nance. Todd, thanks so much for being a part of this. And I think it's an amazing video from what we just watched. And again, thank you for everyone being a part of this, and kind of recapping what we all just went through today, whether you're joining now or whether you came in at the beginning. Biden with his big moments today, specifically looking at the transgender change for the military. About 9,000 people now no longer have to be afraid of being removed from the military for just what they identify as. As Biden said, it shouldn't be what you identify as. It should just be your service to the nation. On top of that, Harriet Tubman being on the $20 bill, and it's just an amazing thing that started back in the Obama administration, but really got pushed back and delayed due to the Trump administration, calling it just pretty much, it was just, a scheme the Obama team did, in a sense, paraphrasing that. But now the Biden administration is pushing forward, getting that done, and the Mint is actually starting to process the $20 bills with Harriet Tubman, and we'll probably see the Andrew Jackson $20 bill becoming one of those collectible $2 bills in essence. It may not be as used, but hey, $20 is still $20, and so I don't think that transition will happen too quickly, but it'll be interesting to see the new $20 bills in circulation soon. And then the third thing. Biden's executive order today, Buy in America, to really help the communities here in America, and to help just pretty much local and keep everyone here. Well, again, with the criticism on the Trump administration not being as aggressive and his push on that. And then we go to the COVID thing, or COVID news. Apologies on that. With COVID, California, the numbers have been decreasing. We've been on a 35% decrease in the last 2 weeks, according to the New York Times. The trend is a really good news, especially coming with, with the vaccination that's being out, even though with the slow trend on the vaccination getting out to people, and hopefully it'll be processed quicker, and the vaccination will be able to get out to more people across the nation. And then we also have Merck ended up shelving their vaccination. Just their vaccination candidates completely. It didn't really meet the standards that they wanted it to meet, unfortunately. However, they still have 2 other drugs, one of which that they were given a $365 million contract with the U.S. government that helps the side effects of COVID-19, specifically with the respiratory issues that people are having as side effects. So that is something that that they are still pushing forward with, and that they're still a part of. And then lastly, COVID in California. On top of that, Governor Newsom has announced that stay-at-home orders have now been ended, and instead it's now up to the counties to determine whether or not they should be in a stricter regimen or whether they can be open and free. Specifically, the Berkeley, San Francisco Bay Area has been opened. Alameda County, for example, that's where I'm located in, has been opened. There is no meaning social bubbles are allowed, outdoor eating is allowed as of that announcement. But then it's still unsure whether or not LA County is going to open back up, as that has been the epicenter for COVID-19 across the entire nation, here in California and LA. So whether or not we see them open up, we'll see that in the next day or so. And then lastly, we went to what we just saw, the insurrection video hosted or, covered and shot by all these people from the Washington Post. Are really amazing stuff, really amazing coverage from fellow journalists. And we just looked at what the insurrection looked like from all really a timeline essence, and from behind the scenes, from within the what we could say inside the actual mob itself, from footage taken from insurrectionists themselves to journalists that risk their lives and risk their health. I actually had a colleague who was a reporter out there who was physically hurt. He had, he's an elderly man, and not too elderly, but like middle-aged man, and he was. He was grabbed and he was like punched in the face, thrown down, and as a reporter, that it was just terrifying. And it's just something that you really that happened, and you wonder, well, who could beat up a middle-aged man? And the answer is just, well, thugs and bullies, pretty much. And again, is what even Mitch McConnell said. That's what the insurrection was: thugs and bullies, and that they themselves would not stop their work to people who wanted to just the mob. So yeah, no, that's just what the insurrection was all about. We looked at the journalist side. We looked at Goodman. We looked at the death of the young woman. We talked a little bit about how close everything got, the fragility of with the electoral college votes that were really just right across the hallway from the mob itself. And I could go on and on about really what we talked about, but I think the video said it all. I think that's pretty much it. And I guess, Todd, thanks again for following, especially with other Nancy too. Thanks for giving me a follow as well. And Todd, your last comment was schools in my small town, 3,000 3,000 in California has opened. Yeah, it's some of these locations are opening. So it's really good to see that we might be actually being able to get back in this upward trend of going back to normal society, especially again, and I just want to bring this up one more time for maybe people who are just coming in, but this just downward trend. I know it doesn't look that great, but just seeing that giant slope down after this huge slope up, really big news for California, really big news. And hopefully the rest of the country follows in suit with this. And it looks like that seems to be the what is going on. And again, what Cameron today, he said earlier in the comments, I think was very relevant with, holiday season was what was happening, was what really caused a complete bubble and just burst here and really made it spike from November to January. But then now that we've seen the holidays have ended, people are now getting really serious. The vaccination is coming out. People are realizing we're getting close to hopefully the end of this thing. I think the next big question is, will the vaccination be what we see the flu, as with flu vaccination? Is that, or are we going to have to get it every year? So those questions are still going to be answered, and we're waiting to be answered. But, as we move forward, we're going to be covering all of that. And I want to thank all of you guys again for being here with me. And I know this was a longer broadcast than normal, but it just means a lot that you guys are able to attend and, just be a part of what I like to say is, my job as a reporter and giving you guys the news to help you understand a little bit about what's going on here in our lives. And thanks to the Facebook user for letting me know that you really like this. That always means a lot. Thanks again for everything, everyone. I want you guys to stay tuned. We have a lot of really great stuff coming for to you guys the rest of the semester. We're actually working with the UC Berkeley Graduate School of Journalism to work on promo videos, kind of like trailer videos of thesis projects that the graduate students have all been working on for pretty much the last 2 years, almost some even 2 years here at the graduate school. And we're going to be trying to get the students to come on air with some of their own interviewees hosted here live on Happs. And it'll be a whole new series where you guys can check out all these amazing stories coming at you that are going to be hitting the news market. And we want you guys to be able to take a quick first look before everyone else is. And so you guys can get it here on Happs. And as well, we'll be also doing we'll be watching COVID. We'll be watching the first 100 days of Biden in office, seeing if he's able to reach across the aisle, do as what he said in his campaign trail. And already within the first week, it's looking like it's off to a good start, already following through with the promises, especially with today's executive order being signed with buying here in America, one of the biggest things that he was pushing throughout for the majority of his campaign. And so really big stuff coming forward to all of you. And I just want to thank you again, guys, for joining in. And my name is Marco Torres, the host of The Review. And have a great night, and I'll catch you next time.